And today we're going to be looking at how that hydrogen bonding helps organisms maintain function and how it links in with biological functions. Now, for the molecular build, it's like kind of the cause and effect part. The cause and effect chain here is that water has a polarity. Water is polar, and we've learned why. Because of this polarity, it forms hydrogen bonds between the water molecules. And this leads to different properties like cohesion, the molecules sticking together, and adhesion, the water molecules sticking to other surfaces that are polar, and also a high specific heat. And these things are properties that help living systems function. So the first one we're going to be talking about is a high specific heat. Now, specific heat means the amount of energy needed to change the temperature of a substance. So some things heat up really quickly and some things heat up really slowly. And if it has a high specific heat, it means it heats up slowly. Okay. Now, water has a very high specific heat because of the hydrogen bonds, okay? It kind of resists a temperature change because molecules are always moving. And because of these hydrogen bonds, it kind of stabilizes the molecules. So the molecules are still moving, but they're kind of like moving less. There's like a resistance to movement. And this gives water a very high specific heat. Now, water can absorb a lot of heat before the temperature changes a lot. Now, this helps organisms to stabilize not just internally but also in their environment. It makes it very stable. The temperature doesn't go up and down really quickly, so it avoids like sudden temperature changes. So a high heat of vaporization. A high heat of vaporization just means that it takes a lot of energy for a liquid, for water in particular, to become a gas. So heat vaporization is the amount of energy needed for a liquid to become a gas. Now, water has a high heat of vaporization because once we add heat, these molecules start moving faster. But because of the hydrogen bonds, it kind of prevents the molecules from breaking apart and a liquid and escaping as a gas. But when water eventually escapes, it takes a lot of heat energy with it. So if we have a liquid and the water evaporates and it has a high evaporation, high heat of evaporation. So every time it evaporates, it takes some of that energy with it. And this leads to a cooling effect. And living systems use this to also regulate their temperature. So the cause and effect chain here is that hydrogen bonding gives a high heat of vaporization, and this leads to evaporative cooling. So every time the molecules are fighting to get rid part of each other, but the hydrogen bonds are keeping them together. But once they eventually leave, the overall kinetic energy in the system drops, so it cools. The third property is cohesion. Now, cohesion is the attraction between the water molecules because of the polarity. Because water is slightly polar, it wants to stick to each other. Now, water can form like droplets because water molecules are attracted to other molecules. So even if you have a drop of water on a surface, they will kind of like stick together like that because of the cohesion forces. And even with the raindrops, okay, the raindrops would form little drops because these water molecules are cohering to each other. The fourth property is adhesion. And adhesion is the attraction between water and molecules and other polar or charged surfaces. So polar surfaces just means it has a slight positive or slight negative charge. And if it's charged, it is a positive or a negative charge. So you would see that this is the surface. If the water molecules are attracted to it, it means it's either polar or it has a charge. The fifth property is surface tension. Now, surface tension happens because water molecules at the surface are strongly attracted to each other. So over here, because of that cohesion forces, the water molecules are very, very attracted to each other. And some organisms can use that surface tension to like kind of walk on it. It creates like almost like I would say a sticky film. Okay. So the water molecules, they don't want to like break from each other. They are all holding on to each other. So it's like a very thin, sticky film. And some organisms can walk on that. And this is called surface tension. So a small insect can stand on the surface of water, and it's caused by the cohesive forces at the water surface. Now, to link it in with biological function, cohesion helps the water molecules pull on each other. So the water molecules like to stick together. Adhesion is it helps the water stick to the xylem walls. So in plants, they have xylem walls that are taking the water all the way from the roots to the leaves through these vessels called xylem vessels. And that helps the water move because it's like sticking to the surface of the xylem. And then surface tension is also important with inside the leaves. So inside the leaves, you will have surface tension and it kind of like, because of the high heat of vaporization, it does not want to, it can absorb a lot of heat energy before the hydrogen bonds break. And once it breaks, it evaporates and that cools down the plant. Now, the surface creates surface tension, maintaining a continuous pull. So every time a water molecule evaporates, let's make this blue. Every time a water molecule evaporates out of the leaf, it kind of pulls in another water molecule from the roots because it's all connected with each other. And then this water molecule will travel all the way to the leaf, and then eventually it will reach the surface and it will evaporate and it will pull in another molecule. A good biological scenario would be like a student tests how detergent affects the number of water droplets that can fit on the surface of a coin. So what the student did, it just adds 1 drop of water and then it creates this surface tension, okay? And then add another drop of water and another drop of water until ultimately this water droplet, the surface tension it is not great enough to withhold the force and that breaks. Now, the student added detergent to it. So this is the average number of drops on a coin. If it was pure water, it could take 34 drops. But when the student added detergent, this dropped down to 15 drops. Now, because these error bars, okay, do not overlap each other, this is a significant difference, meaning there is definitely something doing that. Now, predict how the detergent affected the water and explain which water property was disrupted. So you can use this frame to answer the question. Detergent is likely reduced the surface tension because of what? So it likely reduced the surface tension because it probably disrupted the hydrogen bonds. This caused fewer drops to fit on the coin, because the water was less resistant to breaking. Meaning that somewhere when these drops were formed, there was something interacting with these hydrogen bonds that were breaking those hydrogen bonds, so it was unable to withhold the surface tension became less because the hydrogen bonds became less. If you enjoyed today's lesson, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and come join us on the Skool.com community page where you'll find AP Bio blueprints. And if you take a look inside, you will find that Unit 1 is completely free. See you there.